Hello and welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Today we look at 4 men have been locked up for a total of more than 14 years after a major police operation targeting ring and bring drug dealers in Bradford East. The sting, using a female undercover officer posing as an addict, centred on the Leeds Road, Barker End and Manningham areas of the city. 18 defendants appeared at Bradford Crown Court for their alleged roles selling heroin and crack cocaine on the streets for drug operations including the Sully Lane, the Smokes Line and the Tommy Line. Bilal Ali, 21, of Whitby Road, Garlington, Bradford, was locked up for 4 years for peddling drugs for the Sully Line. He pleaded guilty to 2 offences of possession of Class A drugs with intent to supply and 2 counts of supplying them to law enforcement officer Emily. Prosecutor Alicia Kay said that Mr. Ali was driving a silver Ford Focus when he supplied wraps of heroin and crack cocaine in Manningham. He was also a passenger in a Volkswagen Golf on Mannington Lane when he sold drugs to undercover officer Emily. Miss Kay said that Mr. Ali was in charge of the Sully Line that day and had £223 of drugs on him. Mr. Ali, of previous good character, was a former hospital security guard who then worked as a warehouse man at Morrison's. His barrister, Jonathan Turner, said he was dealing to pay off a drug debt. Azad Khan, 22, of Pearson Street, Bradford, was in prison for 2.5 years for 3 offences of supplying Class A drugs. Mr. Khan had no previous convictions and was homeless at the time, his barrister Andrew Dallas said. He was dealing to pay off a cannabis debt. It is tragic that he has let himself down in this way, Mr. Dallas said. Mr. Khan stood in the dock with his head bowed as Judge Jonathan Rose said that Class A drugs were a blight on the city. Ibrahim Shah, 20, whose address was given as HMP Doncaster, pleaded guilty to 11 charges of supplying Class A drugs and possession with intent to supply crack cocaine and heroin. He was locked up for 4 years and 10 months after dealing for the Tommy Line on Sunbridge Road, Bradford. Mr. Shah sold drugs to Emily outside Tesco Express, on Sunbridge Road, on Rawson Street, John Street and Manningham Lane. He was arrested with more than 30 wraps of Class A drugs on him and more than 70 wraps were found in clothing at his home, the court heard. Mr. Shah was released by police under investigation and was caught again dealing drugs in Ivegate in Bradford city centre. Mr. Turner, Mr. Shah's barrister, said he worked in a warehouse until he began using Class A drugs and fell into debt. He was then expected to deal and man the phone for the Tommy Line. Mr. Shah was selling drugs to addicts and not ensnaring people into using them for the first time. He was locked up for 4 years plus 10 months after breaching a suspended sentence order for burglary. His co-accused, Shabazz Khan, 22, of Bempton Place, Little Horton, Bradford, pleaded guilty to 2 counts of possession with intent to supply Class A drugs and 1 charge of supplying heroin to Emily. He was jailed for 32 months for drug dealing, plus 2 months for breach of a community order. The court heard that Mr. Khan's cannabis habit spiraled out of control when he was ordered to sell Class A drugs to pay it off. He had fallen into the wrong crowd, but was now back with his family and working at a takeaway. Judge Ross said Mr. Shah and Mr. Khan were young men with no previous convictions for drug offences. Both were given drugs on tick without realising they would have to deal on the streets to pay for them. The only way to fund Class A drug addiction is crime, and the decent citizen of the city and others end up paying, the judge said. The other defendants had their sentences adjourned for probation reports or denied the allegations and their cases were adjourned for trial. So what are your thoughts about this Bradford-based conspiracy and how it was taken down by an undercover police officer that was pretending to be a drug addict? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining us and until next time, stay safe.